Welcome. Today we're going to talk about section 1.10, which is modeling functions, which basically means everybody's favorite word problems. The first word problem says a car rental agency charges $200 per week plus 15 cents per mile to rent a car. It says express the weekly cost to rent a car F. So F is the cost. F equals the cost, the weekly cost to rent the car as a function of the number of miles driven during the week X. So X is going to equal the number of miles driven. And if you want a function, now remember, the cost, f of x, is going to equal, it's automatically $200 per week, plus 15 cents per mile. And remember, x is the number of miles driven. So you're going to have plus 15 cents is 0.15x. So there's your function, $200 plus 15 cents per mile. Part B says how many miles did you drive during the week if the weekly cost to rent the car was 320. So that means f of x equals 320. So basically what you need to do is set the function equal to 320 to figure out how many miles you drove. So subtract 200. So we get negative 120 equals positive 120 equals 0.15x. Divide by 0.15. And 0.15 goes into 120. So it goes 8. This is 120, 0, 0. So basically, you would have 800 miles that you drove. Next problem. A machine produces open boxes using rectangular sheets of metal measuring 15 inches by 8 inches. The machine cuts equal-sized squares from each corner, then it shapes up the metal into an open box by turning up the sides. So basically, you have a rectangle here. There's your rectangle. Alright, the machine cuts equal-sized squares from each corner. So from each corner, you're going to have an equal-sized square cut out. So it's going to cut x from each corner. So remember, it's a 15 by 8 rectangle. So if you cut out a square here and you fold it up, the box's side is actually going to be now 15 minus 2x, because remember there's x here and there's x here. So if you take away this corner, you have 15 minus 2x. And on this side you would have 8 minus 2x. Because remember, this is going to be a three-dimensional figure. So you're taking a rectangle, you're cutting out the little squares, and then you're going to fold it up to make a box. So now the volume of the box, and remember, volume is length times width times height. Well, the length of your box is going to be 15 minus 2x. The width of your box is 8 minus 2x. And your height of the box is going to be x, because that's how high the box is, because that's what you're folding up to make the height. So now, basically, what you need to do here is you just need to FOIL. So when you FOIL here, you get 120. And actually, you don't have to FOIL. You can leave that as your answer if you like. I'll make it simple for you. You don't have to FOIL. So now, the domain. Remember here, think about it in terms of a box. A box can't have a negative side. So 15 minus 2x must be greater than or equal to 0. Same with 8 minus 2x. And same with x. So you know x has to be greater than or equal to 0. Well, here, if you notice, if I move the 15 over, so I get negative 2x is greater than or equal to negative 15. And remember, when I divide by negative 2, I get that x, and remember, if I divide by negative, I have to flip the inequality, so I get it's less than 15, or equal to 15 halves, which is like 7 1/2. Here, if I do the same thing, if I subtract the 8, so I get negative 2x is greater than or equal to negative 8. Divide by negative 2, I get x is less than or equal to 4. So I know here that x has to be greater than or equal to 0. So that's the lowest it can be. But then I know it also has to be, if I drew a number line, here's 0, here's 4, and here's 15 halves, or 7 1/2. I know x has to be greater than or equal to 0. Actually, it has to be greater than, because remember, the side of a box cannot be 0 either. You have to actually have a length for the box. So let's take away these equal signs here. So it's going to be less than 15 halves and less than 4. So I know it's got to be less than 4, right? And I know it's got to be less than 15 halves. So basically, I know since anything bigger than 4 won't work here, I know that it has to be between 0 and 4. Alright, because you always choose the lesser number if it's got to be less than that, because if it's, let's say it's 5, it wouldn't work in this one, but it would work in that one. It has to work in both of them. So always choose the lesser number of the two here to use for your domain if it's less than. So here's another problem. You have 200 feet of fencing to enclose a rectangular garden. So once again, draw your rectangle. You have 200 feet to enclose. Express the area of the garden as a function of one of its dimensions. So you have 200 feet, so that means your area is 200 feet. Or sorry, your perimeter is 200 feet. Because you have 200 total. So whatever, let's say the width is x, right? So that means if that's x and that's x, think of it this way. 2x plus the length is equal to 200. So that means the length, and remember you have two lengths. You have a length here and a length there. So 2x plus 2 times the length is equal to 200. So that means 2L is equal to 200 minus 2x So that means when you divide by 2 here, each term, that the length is 100 minus x. So that means this is 100 minus x, and this is 100 minus x, which means to find the area, and that's what a of x means, the area. And remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width. So the length is 100 minus x, and the width is x. So if I just distribute, it's going to be 100x minus x squared, and that would be my function for my rectangular garden. Alright, there's only 4 problems to do for homework, and all of them are similar to what we just did. Also, look on our agenda on A period, Wednesday, and F and B period, I believe you look on Tuesday, and you will find the chapter 1 test review. It might actually say test number 3 review, but it's the same thing. Alright, so you'll find your review sheet already there. You can print it out for your test, which is on Thursday. Alright, any questions, please email me.